Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher, joined by Dick Briggs, ready to talk a little high school and college wrestling this afternoon. Are you hunkered down? Ice Storm 2023 is on its way. Are you ready with some salt and chipper?
I went out early today, about 9 o'clock, and it was just raining, it's kind of sprinkling, hardly anything. And then I had to go out about an hour and a half later, and I thought, nothing's changed. So I backed out of my car and slid down my driveway, which is on a slope, and went, oh boy,
Yeah.
definitely ice.
Wow. Yeah. I think we're staying indoors here for the day. Schools are canceled and stuff, but uh, we'll avoid the elements as much as we can here the next 24 hours. So
I guess
I
at
don't
least
mind snow. I don't like ice.
I was just gonna say, at least we're not getting 2 feet of snow like up in the Twin Cities area, huh?
Yeah, and I heard somebody I ran into from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, were supposed to get 2 feet. They were supposed to get 2 feet of snow.
That's what they said in the Twin Cities area. And
Really? So, yeah. Luckily, we're not having to dig out of that here later. Knock on wood. But um, as my wife pointed out, as Chris pointed out, uh, better now than trying to drive home and it Saturday night from the state wrestling tournament, which we've had some uh, crazy situations coming back from Wells Fargo Arena in the past. So we avoided it this year, just got it a few days late, which is fine. But you know, we had a great state tournament at Wells Fargo Arena. Um, we had some history being made, some exciting matches that delivered that we thought would, and some pretty impressive team performances down there as well. Um, I guess first thoughts. What did you think about the expanded field, and have you heard from anybody that talked about having 24 wrestlers per bracket and kind of having you know kind of an extra day of competition?
right, I really haven't ran into anyone that at least we haven't conversed about it. So I'm thinking people are all right with it. I don't know why they wouldn't be. I was just thinking to myself, before we went on air, kind of the progression, at least in my lifetime, of how the state meet has changed. Like in the early '60s, they only had four medalists, and I don't know. I think the brackets might have only been 8, maybe. I don't remember back then. And then in the early '70s, when I was in school, all 3 years that I was in high school, the bracket was different. They were kind of tinkering with it. So we'd have 3 qualifiers from each district. It was a 2-day district, and then the district was actually bigger than the state bracket, and
Oh,
so the district champions did not have a first round match, just like now. And then of course it went to 16-man for the longest time, and now this year 24, with the top 8 seeds getting a bye first round, which makes the state tournament a little bit tougher. So, it used to be that you had to win 2 matches to be a medalist. Front side, back side, combine those 2 and you're a medalist. Now you can actually win 4 matches and not bring home a medal. So it's changed the dynamics on the backside, certainly. If you're a top 8 seed and you get a bye first round, then basically you're wrestling 1 match a day. So you get one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, one on Friday, one on Saturday, if you stay on the front side. If you go to the backside, then look out, because you've got a lot more matches. So
yeah, and that was I think where you saw that Colin Falk of Cedar Rapids Kennedy, who wrestled back and made the award stand. He had 8 matches over that span, and that's I think he won his first match, maybe lost in the second round, and then had to battle all the way back to earn his medal. So I think that's where I was asked on the radio yesterday about kind of my thoughts of the expanded field. And things seem fairly normal or similar to the same as the past, except on that consolation side, like you were talking about. And if you drop down there in the early rounds, that is a grind. That's a gauntlet that you have to run really to earn to get back into the top 8. Colin Falk did it for sure, as some others did, but I think that's just the biggest difference when it comes to, if you stub your toe early, you've got to battle and almost had a little bit more of an NCAA feel to it, compared to how it used to be with 16 wrestler brackets. And you just have to go. You could go 2 and 3 and still make the stand.
Right. And tell me about this, KJ, with the because you've got your each class now has its own break, and particularly at semifinals. Whereas it used to be all 3 classes came in for the semifinals. They had 4 semifinal matches going, which I hated that. It's my favorite round, and you got 2 weights going at the same time. So I'm glad that they pared that down to just 2 mats during semifinals. But then, was there an overlap at all with the classes, between classes, with I don't know, fans or teams or whatever?
As far as the semifinals go?
No, throughout the course of the tournament. Sorry.
Oh, no, there's no overlap. That until Saturday morning, how they kind of run things there. Yeah, there's no real overlap. I really liked how they changed the logistics to the semifinals, where they dropped down to 6 mats instead of 8, and they didn't go to the next semifinal till both were finished. Also, kind of like an NCAA feel to it. They had some like video. They had pictures of each semifinalist up on the big board overhead to really highlight and put a spotlight on those semifinalists. As you said, it's an exciting round, and some elements are even as exciting as Saturday night. Really. So, I think they really produced the semifinals well, and really highlighted them. And the fact that it was, like you said, not, 4 mats and next available mat going right into the next semifinal match, they really did a nice job of highlighting those kids.
Right. I think 4 days is a long time to be down in Des Moines. So I don't know if they could condense it to 3. I don't know if they even want to, but as a fan, as a coach, former coach, I just think that's a long time to be down in Des Moines. I guess the other option is to be back in school. So if you ask the kids, they'd be down in Des Moines, but so I don't know if they could even do that schedule wise, or if it would overlap. And do they, when they're cleaning the arena out with one group and bringing the other one in, sort of thing,
Well, we'll see. And that was the one issue. I wasn't sure if maybe that's what you were asking about. I can't remember if it was the quarterfinal round on Thursday or when, but a 2A session ran long.
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
Here, I think it was like 5:15. You're waiting for, you have that one heavyweight match that goes 1-1 into tiebreakers or whatever. When the all the other mats are shut down and you've got one, and about 30 people left in the arena watching this final match finish up. You had that instance with 2A, and they were beyond they were supposed to be in that break before 3A, and having the 3A fans come in. Well, you still had a match going on. So
Yeah.
that, I think they only had like 30 minutes to get things done and be able to let fans back in for the 3A session that followed. So that was one of the times I know of for sure that there is an issue, because that time in between sessions is a lot shorter than it has been, at least on Wednesday and Thursday. They're shorter. I think they expanded that a little bit closer to 90 minutes instead of 60 on Friday. But
Well, and since we started out talking about weather, let's go back to it. If it's a nice weather day, it's not an issue. If it's a day like today, ice and sleet, then yeah, that with the crowd standing out there, that's more of an issue. But that's what you get at the state wrestling. One day can be sunny and 50, and then t-shirt weather, and the next day can be with your jacket and in sub-zero weather.
well, Thursday was blizzardish conditions. There they had quite a bit of snow, and it was kind of uglier early, but not too bad. Temperatures weren't terrible for the majority of the time, so we're lucky there.
And I want to give a kudos to the Iowa High School Athletic Association in that the semifinals and finals were both free. You can watch them on TV. I watch the semifinals on my computer, and then the finals on my television. So I'm sure you probably do that on some houses. Anyway, so kudos to them for not for taking care of that, and it was pretty simple. I just went to their site and clicked on it, and it was not that big of a deal. So
yeah, I think they made it a lot more accessible in some of those rounds than the last few years.
yeah.
So
Some of the teams, KJ, we kind of expected to have. I kind of expected 1A and 3A to be a pretty tight team race before it started, and it ended up not being that way. So a couple of teams really stepped up and shined.
yeah, I tell you what, let's start in 3A with Waverly Shell Rock. That well, we kind of talked about it with Southeast Polk and Bettendorf being able to challenge. We kind of wondered what maybe Linmar and City High could do, but Waverly Shell Rock really had a nice tournament, and they did that with one of their leaders kind of going down in McCray Haggerty, but they came away, they ended up beating Southeast Polk by 16 points, but I think it didn't seem that close, if that makes sense. I think they were in control the majority of the time. Bettendorf was well back in third place. But Waverly Shell Rock pulls off, the sweep there, and they just wrestled really well all the way throughout. Ryder Block winning his third title. I believe Baz Diaz in the final at 145, I think it was. So,
Yep, champion.
yeah, so back to back there for those two. His brother Danny also won at 160. Like I mentioned, McCray Haggerty, unfortunately, in the semifinals had an injury default, hurt his shoulder, I think, at the state duels. Went as far as he could, and then injury defaulted to, medical forfeit's the term, to sixth place. You had Jake Walker, who was in the finals as well, getting second, but they really put together a strong tournament overall. Riker Graf made the award stand for them as well, placing fourth at 113. But Waverly Shell Rock with another state title sweep. I think this is six, maybe total for them, fifth or sixth state team title sweeps. over I think maybe a 15, 16-year period.
Yep. This year is kind of special though. Instead of 2 state titles, they won 3 state titles this year with the girls.
Oh, with the girls as well.
Right. So
you gotta mention that. So yeah, so they really put together the state sweep, didn't they?
right. And you mentioned McCray Haggerty at 195. That was painful to watch. And you were right. It's called an injury default because it happened in the match. If it would have happened, he would have just not stepped out on the mat. It would have been a medical forfeit. But so it actually was an injury default. He tried to gut it out. He was wrestling. It was a tight match. It went into overtime, and he had already taken 2 injury timeouts, and you're only allowed to up to a maximum of 90 seconds. And he had not used, I think he used all of his 90 seconds as well, but in the tiebreaker or sudden victory, anyway, in the overtime, he ended up just saying, I can't wrestle anymore. And so it had to injury default that match. And it was very painful because there's a 2-time, if I remember right, 2-time returning champ, right? That's
Yep.
not
He was going for his third.
Yeah. So that was painful for me to watch, just knowing the kid was hurting physically. And of course that doesn't even pale to what's, the hurt inside that he has, so anyway. And then, that's pretty impressive when you can take away, because then he medical forfeited the rest of his matches to 6th place. So there's a guy that probably, who knows, but most likely certainly would have made the finals and would have probably won the match or the state title again with a good shoulder. There's a good probability of that. So, take away quite a number of points from 1st to 6th place. So,
right.
And that's that difference that you're talking about in team race. So it's nice that those teammates could carry that and still win the title.
That's a really good point. We had a couple teams with some good showings. Linmar ended up 4th at one time. They were in 2nd place after a really strong semifinal round. City High crowned 3 champions and really interesting story with all 3 of City High's champions. You got to start off with Ben Kueter. Becoming the 32nd 4-time state champ in state history. He became the 7th Iowa wrestler to complete an unbeaten career, finishing 111-0. I believe 75 pins, and closed this year at 39-0. Wrestled a total of 26 seconds in his first 2 matches. Just absolutely dominant. Went 153 in the semifinals over Hogue from Lamar's, who is a very, very good wrestler. And then I think it was similar to the MVC finals that you saw. He scored a technical fall over Joe Lewis of Dubuque Hempstead, 19-4 in the finals to finish that off. The thing that gets me is we just mention that in passing as if it's normal, or we've just become numb to the fact that he's been this dominant and he's done it at an upper weight, which, doing it from the time he was a 15-year-old freshman is pretty impressive.
Right. And to show kind of how impressive that is, 13 of the 14 matches in the finals were decided by decision. Only his was anything other than a regular decision.
Wow, I did not realize that.
No majors, just his technical fall. I mean, you're talking about some quality kids. Now that could also speak to some great matchups, like for instance at 182. We'll talk about that in a minute. I mean,
Right.
Obviously that one's not going to be a major decision or anything, but that just kind of shows you with Ben Kueter, because JJ Lewis from Hempstead is a great wrestler. He can score a point on him in the finals at the MVC, and then had 4 releases, for takedowns. I think Ben was probably going to realize he would have a hard time pinning Lewis, and just went for the technical fall. He's got him to the point where he could get it at any time, sort of thing. So, but that's Kueter, man. And did you notice after they were done, the nice hug between each other, good sportsmanship and respect Lewis to Kueter? But that's pretty special. We had a special wrestler right there in Ben Kueter the last 4 years.
Yeah. And the thing too is, in the tunnel, you see things in the tunnel that most fans aren't really privy to or accustomed to. One, JoJo Lewis wasn't conceding anything. He had a huge mountain to climb, and this tells you how much of a competitor he is. He was expecting to climb it, because afterwards you could tell he was visibly upset with not accomplishing his goals. It didn't matter who was out there. I think that's a testament to Lewis, because a lot of people might be thinking, hey, I got second, I'll be part of history. He was a competitor. He was going out there to win. He wasn't conceding anything. That showed me a lot about Lewis. Just not unfortunately he didn't get his ultimate goal, but the fact that he wasn't conceding anything. He was going out there to try to win, and get a title of his own. Wasn't able to do that, but I still have a ton of respect for Joe Lewis for seeing that he wasn't going to back down and he wasn't going to give in just because he was facing a world champ, somebody looking to make history, if that makes sense at all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times you see, and we've seen this in the past, when you have an elite wrestler that, potentially a 4-timer or whatever, you see a lot of people vacate that weight class too. They'll go up or down. And, that might have happened to a short degree, but you didn't see Lewis do that, so, again, kudos to him.
Yep. So Kueter joins really elite company. Talked to Corey Connell. Corey Connell, a former state champ at City High. He grew up idolizing Jeff McGinnis, who was another one of those 4-time undefeated champs. He thinks maybe the torch has passed from who he considered the greatest of all time to who he coached, and now thinks Ben Kueter kind of has that honor now. How do you feel where Ben Kueter kind of fits in the pantheon of champions like that?
Now, are you talking City High wrestlers or overall?
No, all time.
All time.
All over as far as accomplishments go at the high school level.
I mean,
Iowa high school.
At the high school level, Kueter's not going to show quite as impressive in terms of matches won because of COVID and the lack of matches and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
McGinnis was special, man. That guy, he was fun. He was slick. He was awesome to wrestle. But was Jeff a world champ?
Yes.
So the two of them are in the world champ. Boy, I tell you what, right now, to me, it's those two, both from City High. I mean, geez, that's impressive. There's one other, wasn't there, a world champ that at the high school level.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but not a 4-timer.
Right. Right, and I'm blanking on his name too. I remember when Kueter won his. I'd have to go back and
Right.
look it up.
Yeah. And
It's
so to answer your question, I don't have an answer. It's those two. It's those two. And I've been lucky enough to watch their careers, so that's neat.
yeah, and then that's I'm still torn. I still remember the way McGinnis wrestled. Um, you know, he was he was so good. You know, um, Peter's technique and brute force. I mean, just the way he was so physically overwhelming to opponents. You know, outside of maybe Tate Nakaborn, those guys had a couple battles together. Just nobody really could match or keep up with Kueter physically. So yeah, I don't know. I might be backing off what I say or who I crown. Go? Can they share it?
I think we're gonna have to share it. So if you look
Yeah.
at, I mean, you can look at Kueter and say, well, he did it. Was he at 4 different weights when he did it? At least three different weights.
Three.
And then, and you can say that. Whereas McGinnis, I mean, he might have been at, I don't know if he did 3 different weights or not. And then you can also say, well, on to maybe to support the McGinnis camp and say, well, he did. Kueter did it at the upper weights where maybe sometimes they're not as competitive and as deep as some of the other weights, particularly in the middle. You can say McGinnis wasn't afraid of competition. He moved up, to wrestle elite wrestlers like Mark Ironside. Put that undefeated on the line, and so you're doing this, and I'm not doing it. they're both.
Yeah. They're both impressive. I'm just kind of looking up here. I know McGinnis started. I think McGinnis might have done it at 4 different weight classes.
Might have, yeah. Those lighter weights that are so competitive. But as you're looking, I'm gonna divert it a little bit to Cale Seaton, who I'm just proud of that kid, man. That guy, was it 3 weeks, maybe a month prior to state? He didn't think he was going to be able to wrestle, with this bad knee injury. And, I happened to talk to him that Sunday after it happened and on Saturday, and he still was harboring hope and thought there was a chance. And what a good kid. Got to talk with him a little bit at that Matt Pack tournament, and just a great kid. So to see him come back and win that title, I was really, really happy and excited for him. So
yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because that's one of the first things that Corey Connell mentioned about Cale Seaton in this situation was that he was the most optimistic person, always a positive thought. Came back and told him, "Hey, I'm going." And Corey's like, "Yeah, we'll see." But it was like, "I'm going. It's not as bad as what everybody thinks. I can do this. I can do it." And he's like, he was positive from the get go. The following Tuesday is when they met with the doctors and surgeons, and they said, "Well, it's not great, but it could be a lot worse. And the good thing is, if you can handle it, you're not gonna hurt it any. You're not gonna hurt it any worse than it is right now. If you can stomach it, you give it a try." And he was, "Okay, I'm in."
I believe Coach Connell said, "Nothing torn, everything stretched." So that's great news. That was what put him back on the mat.
So, and then it's one thing to say it; it's another thing to go do it, and that's exactly what he did. Really just a real impressive showing for him. You know, he had his legs heavily taped up, open with a major decision. Then he beat Anglo from Johnston, the number 9 seed, 5-2. Uh, beat Golden from North Scott by major in the semis to reach the finals, and then had a battle with Jabari Henson of Ames for the championship. Scored an escape in the final period to win 4-3. So he had a real gutsy performance.
Right, and Henson is the son of Dwight, correct?
Is it? Is he?
That's what was said
Okay.
on Ironside in the broadcast, I believe. So Henson.
I did not realize that, but now being able to connect the dots, it makes sense. So now let's talk about kind of the marquee matchup, I guess, on Saturday night. Really, 182. You had another classic between Gabe Arnold and Tate Knockborn. Gabe Arnold coming away with another overtime victory in the series. This time 2-1 and tiebreaker 1. The MVC finals, I believe, was 3-2 and tiebreaker 1. 3-1 in the duel, and then 8-3 in the Donnybrook in December. So 4 outstanding matches between these two nationally ranked wrestlers. Arnold going to Iowa, Knockborn going to Iowa State. But there are some flurries and scrambles in the last minute of regulation and then throughout overtime that really, I think, put fans on the edge of their seats and entertained fully.
Great flurries, and you're right. Basically what happened is you have a sudden victory, and there's some flurries in there, but no takedowns. So they went into tiebreaker, and in the first tiebreaker, Arnold took down, got the escape, and then in the second tiebreaker, Knockborn took down, and Arnold was able to ride him out for that 2-1. So very exciting, even in that sense of it, because there's some opportunities that were pretty close that Knockborn put himself up on his feet more than once or twice, and was just not able to cut away and get that escape to tie it, to take it to the ultimate tiebreaker. But that, with that decision, there's been some discussion I see about people and how they're disappointed with the high school rule, because basically, if you think about it, that match could have been decided, if it goes to ultimate tiebreaker, by a coin toss that happened, clear back in the second period, at the start of the second period, because that's who gets their choice. They take down, get the first point. The first point gets to choose an ultimate tiebreaker, whether they want top or bottom. So, instead, people are going, let's put them back up on their feet. We want to see more of this fun action stuff. And what it was, it didn't disappoint. I don't know that these guys will wrestle each other in college. I suspect that Knockborn might
different weights
based on his body frame and such. So we'll see. But if they do, that'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be interesting. Some of the postseason, technically, you can't call them all-star meets or whatever, but it'll be interesting to see if they might decide to run it a 5th time at one of these postseason senior duels or something.
All-star meets, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things about Tate Knockborn that is going to stand out, he might be one of the best wrestlers that won't be on some of these lists just because of who he had to wrestle along the way. So, like, when you look at, say, MVC champs throughout the, there's a long list of 4-time MVC champs, 3-time MVC champs. He won 1 MVC title, 1 conference title. His freshman year, he faced Ben Kueter. Wrestled a very, very close match with Ben Kueter, and two of Ben Kueter's closest matches in his entire high school varsity career have been to Tate Nakamura. 1 year, COVID canceled the MVC meet. The other year, Gabe Arnold beat him in, tiebreaker by 1 point. He's a two-time champ, four-time finalist, an outstanding accomplishment. Being a two-time state champ, outstanding accomplishment. He was 2 points away from being a four-time champion. And he lost to two outstanding, lost to Ben Kueter by a point their freshman year in the 160 finals. Lost by a point to Gabe Arnold in the 195 finals this senior year. The second four-time finalist for Linn-Mar, joining Jay Borschel, who was a four-time champ. He, no doubt, Tate has put together one of the best high school careers in the metro area, if not among high school wrestlers in general.
Right. And you can find that just about anywhere at any level. I imagine maybe not quite to that degree, to that level, but like I'm thinking, there's a guy on the University of Iowa wrestling team that's going for his fourth national title, but not his fourth Big Ten title.
Right.
And
That's a good point.
And I had a wrestler that was a state champion that was never an MVC champion. So
Really?
about that one for a minute, but actually probably more than one. But Tim Ironside, who never won a conference title, but was a state champion. So so you kind of get that on different levels. But boy, not to the level of Nakamura. That's so impressive. Geez.
Yeah. And one of the things, boy, I can't remember where I saw it or who might have I think it was a social media post. We saw Tate at a lot of the girls' competitions, cheering him on.
Yeah.
After his season comes to a close, where is he at this week? He is at a junior high meet, cheering on wrestlers at the lower level and showing his support. And there are a lot of wrestlers who give back, and there are a lot of people that do things. Tate Nakamura has shown, off the mat, he is as big of a promoter and role model and supporter as Linn-Mar has ever had.
Right. And I don't know if you've noticed, I know you have, he brings a lot of fun to it.
Yeah.
For instance, you see him before his matches, warming up, he's got a cowboy hat on. He's just got that kind of playfulness to him that brings fun. And that's got to be fun for teammates to be around. And then the little guys to see.
Remember the Christmas sweater before we went to the holiday break.
Right. Forgot about that. those fun things that kind of keep you relaxed and at ease. But that's also the culture at Linn-Mar. He's not the only one that's at those middle school meets or at those youth meets helping and that sort of thing. And that's that wrestling community that they've built. And so kudos to them. And Linn-Mar's got a lot of those kids are back. I think is he the only one that's graduating off this?
I think Park is a senior as well.
Park, you're right. And
but the rest of them are back.
Yeah. So and then they've got others to fill in now. So yep. They have between the boys and the girls at middle school level, just short of 100 kids.
Wow.
95 or 6 or something like that. So.
Wow, that's impressive. And they had an impressive showing down in Des Moines. Tate was in the final. They had a program record 4 finalists. Excellent semifinal round. Braden Park reached the 132 finals. Caden Knockaborn pinned his way to the 138 final. Grant Kress with a big overtime victory and at 152 over Anderson of Ankeny to reach the finals. So they had 4 runner-up finishers, and then Malik DeBow also placed for the second straight year. So a really strong showing for them, one of the best in program history. And the other thing about the balance, I'm pretty sure 8 out of their 10 qualifiers won at least 2 matches. Grant Boddicker had a great run to the quarterfinals, even though he just missed the podium. But everybody seemed to contribute down in Des Moines, which helped them finish 4th.
Right. You mentioned DeBow is a 2-time medalist as a sophomore, so he's got a chance to be a 4-time medalist, and obviously he wants to climb on top of that podium. But good job with him.
Yep. Any other comments from 3A?
Other than the obvious outstanding wrestler, who would you be the honorable mention? The number 2. This might be an easy choice too. So, other than Ben, who would you throw in as
the first one that comes to mind? I think obviously Gabe Arnold, just because of the finals. 120 was loaded with top end talent. Koufax Christensen coming away with a title in that group. I'd have to say Deshaun Ross of Fort Dodge being a freshman champ at 195. It kind of got Knockaborn Teeter vibes a little bit with Ross and Mickle being freshmen in an upper weight final there. I don't know. I guess the easy pick would just be Gabe Arnold, right. And then maybe Koufax Christensen after that for me.
I kind of went Peter, Arnold, and then Ryder Block. But
sure.
You mentioned freshmen. Let's shout this out because you had 3 freshman champs, if I remember right. You've got Alex Pierce, Iowa City West, 6 champ. We saw that one remember that first meet we called down in Iowa City? Boy, you knew that guy was something special then, and he proved it, won that title. And then Jake Knight from Bettendorf won at 113, beat Ruella, and so 3 freshman champs. So boy, that Ross at 95, man, he's just a good looking wrestler.
He is. And the interesting thing is, among the 4-timers, I don't think we've had a father son. We've had brother duos complete that feat, right? I don't think we've had a father son ever do that.
I know we were close with the lights, maybe with the lights.
No father son with the lights. They were Shane won 4 titles. I won 3, and Zach, I believe, won 1.
Okay.
The Happels, the brothers Cale and Carter won 4-piece.
Yeah.
But Dean was a 3-timer.
I say that's right. Yeah.
The Riders were brothers at 1-4. Mac and Bart.
Morning Star, I know. Scott, let's see.
Scott was a 4-timer, and Ryan was a 3-timer.
Okay.
So with Dan Knight winning 4 titles from 84 to 87, Jake has 1 down, 3 to go. But very well, we could see, and there's still a lot of things to go on between now and then, but we could be in store for our first father-son 4-time combo, which would be pretty neat for the Knights.
We'll talk about that in 4 years. Maybe.
Yeah, right. Let's switch to 2A. Osage, the first time in school history to sweep team titles. They had a fantastic tournament. They had things locked up by Friday afternoon, pretty much. But the Green Devils, no surprise there. They've made a case for being one of the top teams in the state, regardless of class. And they showed it. They put up 175 and a half points, 69 more than runner-up West Burlington Notre Dame, which again, another great state tournament for them. They get the most out of the guys they take down there. Always the quality over quantity group with them. And then Mount Vernon with a school record, 6 medalists. Had their first freshman finalist in Jace Jaspers since Greg Randall won the first of his 4 titles in 1979. But the Mustangs, really strong performance to finish third, edging West Delaware by 1.5 points for third place in the trophy. The school's best finish has been third in the past a couple times.
I'm actually surprised to hear that 6 medalists is the best in Mount Vernon history. I would have thought they would have had that prior to this year. So that's a really good job. It's fun to watch Mount Vernon this year. Really good team balanced up and down the line. And, West Delaware as well, who, again, I think walks away maybe a little disappointed. West Delaware is always looking to win it. This year might have been a stretch with Osage being so strong, but when you're walking away at the 4th place trophy, that's not a bad thing, right?
Right. And they had the champion Cam Guether. I tell you, one of the probably one of the most emotional moments that I can remember at state was when he won his semifinal match, when he edged Corver Hupke of Independence, their 4th battle of the season. Before this, it was 2-1 in favor of Guether. He won a hard-fought battle, get to the finals. Big hug for one of his coaches in the corner. Then when he was coming off the mat, he's greeted by Logan Payton, who said, I love you, and then gave him a big hug. He comes off. Mitch Payton, the assistant coach, is right there waiting for him. Cheering. The crowd is, just ecstatic and cheering loudly for him as he's going to the tunnel. His classmate, Will Ward, another medalist for West Delaware, is at the front of the tunnel, just, grinning from ear to ear. And then going into the tunnel to kind of make sure to catch him when he gets in there for post-match interviews with the rest of the media. There's this receiving line of West Delaware wrestlers and coaches, just waiting for him to come down so they can congratulate him. He gave his club coach a big hug, and these are the stories that are cool, because one of the reasons why everybody was so vested in him or excited for his success was that junior high never won a match. Before he got into high school, never won a match. His freshman year, he won 10, he said. Didn't wrestle as a sophomore because he weighed 340, couldn't make the heavyweight limits. State place winner last year, constantly driving to club practices with Wyatt Volker. Wyatt Volker, a huge influence on him and had an impact, kind of a mentor. Came down for the finals to watch him. But ended up closing out his career. He went from winless in junior high to a state champion his senior year. It just a real neat story.
That's a great story for sure. Jeez. Man, and congratulations to him. And I mean, you can see what, listening to you, how the impact, and he's a good kid, because you don't get that sort of a response if you're not a good kid, you know, coming through the tunnel and I love you, and hugs from coaches and Wyatt coming down to support him, and kind of the big brother that he evidently was. And so that's a great story. Now it kind of leads me.
One more thing about it too, and one thing I forgot to mention. He talked about getting so Wyatt's at UNI. Wyatt's training, focusing on, his development at UNI. Before the semifinal match with Hupkey, Kueter admitted to being nervous, and he gets a text from Wyatt Volker that says, "Hey, no matter what happens, you're still my boy. You're still my guy." Cam Kueter said that immediately allowed me just to relax, because it made me realize, go out, wrestle, whatever happens, the result, just go out, wrestle hard. The result doesn't matter, in a sense, right? Because he still has the support. He still has people that care about him when he gets off the mat, regardless of what he does. And I thought that was something that was pretty cool, and something that obviously meant a lot to Cam.
Right. And the semifinal match that we're speaking of leads me to this point. So you'll see my point here in just a second. But I'm going to start with, I think the seeding committee did a pretty decent job this year. At the 3A level, 13 of the 14 finalists were top 4 seeds. The only exception was McCray Haggerty, who got injured, and likely would have been. So they probably would have been 14 for 14 there. On 2A and 1A, they were 11 of 14 with the top 4 seeds. And the other ones weren't too far off. They had a couple that went deep. In this instance, probably the biggest instance in 2A for sure was at 285, where the number 2 seed was nowhere near the finals, and actually got beat early on. But my point for that is that semifinal match between Corver Hupkey and Cameron was maybe likely the finals match. I mean, we used to see that in the old format. You could get them second, third, fourth round, those final matches. In this instance, it was probably that semifinal match. Winner of that's probably going to win it, because then you have the I think it was the 10th seed.
14
seed, wasn't he? 14th seed. Yeah, there we go. And heavyweight, anything can happen, but so that, my point there was, that semifinal match was not only a rematch of all the matches they've had throughout the course of their careers, but that one was likely the finals match. So made it even more important.
Exactly. Union had a couple champs. Their lightweight duo of Braden Bonesack at 106, Jace Hedeman at 113. Hedeman winning his second title. Thought it was kind of interesting with Braden Bonesack. Jace Hedeman told our Rob Gray about how it was good to see Braden down at his natural weight, because Hedeman was at 106 last year. Bonesack, I think Bart Mailer, if I remember hearing from Jim Nelson of the Courier, Mailer even had Bonesack wrestle a match at like 126 at one time over the last 2 years, where he was that high. So he's done everything and anything for the team to kind of go to a different weight class. Now he's down to kind of a more natural weight for him. He comes away with a state title at 106, and then Hedeman, who I think is, I'd like to see a DNA test on Jace Hedeman. I don't know if he's an exact clone of Max Thompson, but I tell you what, there's you might make a case that Jace Hedeman is Max Thompson's mini me a little bit, and he's of course on pace to match Max Thompson, going 2 for 2 in state titles.
Right, and it's interesting that you see this many times and a lot in the tournament here, that you have one wrestler that's a state champ and another one that's a weight above or below, that's his workout partner, that also becomes that high medalist or state champ. In this case, both were state champs, and then also 32 and 38 with Greene County, and then I know there's another couple throughout the course of the tournament in that respect. Columbus Catholic.
Right.
So it's interesting. You just, when you've got those partners and friends that have equal goals, and you have that championship mentality, it's fun to watch that spread and share that. So anyway, it was nice between Bonesack and Hedeman there.
For sure. Cale Peterson, you mentioned Greene County, Cale Peterson, becoming a 3-time champ there as well, winning at 132. Okay, so you asked me about 3A, who your kind of your MVP was. What about yours for 2A? Who do you think really kind of stood out as far as champions go?
So I'm going to surprise you a little bit, maybe. Okay. So everyone had their eyes focused on the 3A mat. I'm picking my OW in 2A is CJ Waldron.
Really?
He really killed it in the finals, but everyone was watching 3A. The guy's over there just and he did such a good job. And that's a bold pick, because you just mentioned a 3-time state champion. But if you pick the tournament, he just had a great tournament. Let's see, he had I don't know, pins, and I don't know exactly what he did throughout the tournament, but I know it was very, very good. So that's my pick. And it was between my honorable mention, Peterson, and I'm going to go with Bonesack too in there. I throw him in there as well. He had a great tournament.
Really? I kind of agree wholeheartedly with Walrath. He was just dominant all the way through, and I think he was just one of those individuals that you never really write a champion in pen down in Des Moines, because anything can happen. But he's one of those guys that I'll tell you what, he was a man on a mission, and you just kind of knew that he was gonna, that he was gonna be the top guy there. Real dominant tournament from him. And of course, he was that way in his pin on Saturday night. I'm going to mention a couple performances, not necessarily MVP guys, but Dawson Bond of Red Oak. He had some battles that he just found a way to get through to win the 160-pound title. He edged Logan Payton of West Delaware in the quarterfinals. Then he beat Max Gast of Osage in the semis. And then he edged Cole Butikoffer of Crestwood, the number 2 seed, 3-2 in the finals. He put together a nice run, had 3 really hard fought matches to close things out. Another one, Blake Fox at 120, the freshman for Osage. Man, I was so close after watching him compete at the state duels. You just kind of thought, hey, this was somebody that was pretty special. I know Brent Jennings said some really good things about him. His big win was in the semifinals over Carson Doolittle of Webster City, knocking off the top seed there, and then finishing off with an 8-2 win over Vinnie Mayberry of Glenwood. So two really good performances. Really like the Walrath pick from West Burlington Notre Dame though for. And let's not forget too a West Burlington Notre Dame teammate Isaiah Fenton, who knocked off top seeded Cooper Sanders of Vinton Shellsburg 10-3 in the final. Sanders, two-time state finalist. So that was a good win for Fenton.
Yeah, I mean, so many up and down the line good stories and kind of mild upsets. And I guess I threw Bonsack in there because he beat Carter West, speaking of Notre Dame West Burlington. So
Sure,
that's a pretty impressive win right there.
for sure. Let's switch to 1A. But you know, in 3A, and I know some of this has to do with the expanded fields, right? So some of this is going to be a little bit inflated just because you might have more matches, more chance for bonus points, you know, more wrestlers in the field. But the number of teams in Class 1A that surpassed 100 points, you know, you had what was it? 8 teams that passed 100 points in Class 3A. In Class 1A, you had 5 teams that reached or surpassed the century mark in scoring. And of course, Don Bosco comes away with a win, 165 points, about 26 more than Wilton. Nashua Plainfield had an extremely good tournament. They finished third. Alburnett, very impressive as well. They're at fourth. And then Waterloo Columbus, 3 champs. Maximus Magana, then Harts and Knipp, winning titles. Good showing for Waterloo Columbus as well. But it's the Dons coming away with their 3rd straight title sweep.
You know, I'm going to throw in a local team in that was it maybe 4 years ago had maybe 7 kids on their team that took 11th this year at 1A at Belle Plaine. Just a real nice tournament by Belle Plaine and their wrestlers, and what a turnaround with that. I mean, it's like, are we going to have a program a couple of years ago? So,
right. Yeah, they ended up with 3 medalists. Connor Tim was 3rd at 160. Then you had Jack Schwen, 4th at 195, and Chase Wickwire, 8th at 182. Interesting story about Jack Schwen. Unable to wrestle last year because football season that school year he suffered spinal fractures. Spinal fractures kept him out last season. Limited what he could do this year. I think it cut him down to maybe a half a year. And then he's able to come through and get 4th at 195, overcoming all of that and the serious injury. So just to piggyback what you said about Belle Plaine getting 11th, what a performance from Jack Schwen, who is really I guess you could say been through hell and back as far as injuries over the last year and a half.
what a great story. And that whole program, just a real nice job out there with the Plainsmen. And that used to be back in the Al Billings days, so a real strong program. And then
Mhm.
strong, then followed there. Bob Ulick, I was just going to say, and then you kind of dipped down after that, and now it's good to see him back up there.
Yep. So hopefully they keep building out there as well. Lisbon had a pair of champs and got sixth.
Undefeated champs.
On the two undefeated champs, exactly right, with Brandon Paez at 120 and heavyweight Wyatt Smith. Let's just touch on those two, especially Paez. Finishes his career going first, second, first. Ended his career with, I believe, a 73 match win streak. We talk about dominant wrestlers, and his performance at 120 was outstanding. Had 2 pins, got a pin in the finals, opened with a pin, and then in between that had 2 16-0 technical falls. He outscored his opponents, if you include the leads when he got a pin in the first round in the finals. He outscored his opponents 42-0. He had an 8-0 lead in the first round when he got a pin, was up 2-0 when he got an early pin in the finals. And then, like I said, 2 16-0 technical falls. So Brandon Paez, absolutely dominant. And of course, I think a lot of people know his story. Came to Lisbon with a group from Las Vegas. Really thrived at Lisbon. He's going to go to UNI now. He talked about how much he's loved the Lisbon community, and now Iowa's going to be his home. He loves it here. Going to go to school, college here. This is now his home, and talked about how Lisbon, the community and the support that he's gotten there, not only made him a better wrestler, but a better person. And he always, even after he won, he talked about taking it in stride and how the journey was so much more than the destination. And you can see how that kind of rang true for him.
Right, and to show you the significance of that pin that he had in the finals, of the 48 finals matches, if my research was right, I believe only 3 of them were ended in fall. And so
Really?
his, Gable Porter's, and then CJ Walworth. And we forgot to mention at the 182, you had 3 Division I wrestlers there, with Nakamura going to Iowa State, Arnold going to Iowa, and Walworth intending to go to UNI. So when you brought up UNI, that made me think about that with
Sure.
Paez. So back to Lisbon though with Paez. What a great career here in Iowa and at Lisbon. Good fit.
Yeah, Brad Smith has coached a lot of really, really good wrestlers, and he said, Paez is right up there with the best of them that he's ever coached, as far as just how good he is technically and how he just never gives in, and just keeps going. Like, his example was the bar arm that he got the pin in the finals, where he got it locked up, he kept driving, the kid fought it, but he was relentless. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. He just was unrelenting, and the kid just couldn't fight it anymore. And Paez turned him and pinned him. And his technical wrestling, his relentless approach, that's made him one of the best wrestlers that Brad said he's ever coached. And hey, let's give kudos to Brad Smith, the Grand Marshal, and then had to coach two wrestlers to titles after leading the Grand March. Saturday night. So that was a pretty cool experience for him. Said it was everything he thought it would be. Pretty neat.
That is cool. And kudos to Albert Burnett. I think they had an outstanding tournament. We suspected they might, but boy, I thought they stepped up and wrestled above their seeds in a few spots and just had a great tournament.
Yeah. You know, as a coach, you've been through it so many times. You know, those Saturday morning Conci semifinals are so tough. You know, few of those guys were coming on the backside of, you know, having their state tournament or state title runs come to a close. And what they did Saturday morning, where they went 8-1, in that consolation session, I mean, was pretty. That's something you don't see very often, and that was a huge boost for them to go along with Rowdy Neighbor as a runner-up at 113.
Right. I mean, and they're sadly they're a half a point out of third. Sadly for Alburnett, not so sadly for the third placing.
Natural playing field.
Thank you, natural playing field. And but anyway, you know, man, how can you ask much more than that? I mean, that's such a great. I mean, yeah. Tate Kupel, I don't remember what he was seated, but he finished third. I know he wasn't seated third, so good.
No, I think he was seated sixth.
Sixth, so it wrestled well there. And then you got at 38, Brody Neighbor, who's beat Cale Bridgewater, the number 1 seed, twice in the tournament, who had lost to throughout the season at least twice, I think.
Yep.
And good turnaround there. You know, sad and sorry for Cale Bridgewater, but you know, Brody Neighbor, good job, man. They finished third and fourth in the tournament. You know, just up and down the line, you know, good stories with Alburnett. So,
yeah, you know, Rowdy Neighbor, you know, he talked about last year as a freshman where he got sick, and I think he ended up finishing 8th. Wasn't happy about it. You know, I believe he came in as the 4th or 5th seed. Beat Eli Becerra, the defending state champ from Missouri Valley, the top seed in the semifinals. Beat him 2-0. Big reversal in the third period after a ride out in the second. You know, really impressive. Talking to Clayton Rush afterwards, nerves might have kind of hit in when he, you know, kind of affected him a little bit for the finals against Morrow of Akron and Westfield. You know, Rush wasn't using that as an excuse, said that may not have, you know, been, you know, he may still not have won, but he was affected by nerves a little bit and a learning experience, you know. So it's a good thing, good way for him to kind of build on for next year. And regardless of how the finals turned out, a heck of a tournament from Rowdy Neighbor for Alburnett.
Yep, the Neighbors had a good tournament, both brothers there. So
yeah,
yep.
And the interesting thing with Alburnett is I think they only have 2 seniors that are graduating with Brody Neighbor and Carson Klosterman, who also came back and got third, I believe. I think those are the only 2 qualifiers who are seniors. So Alburnett's not going anywhere.
And if they are, it's upward.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice. One other team that deserves at least our comment for sure. Columbus Catholic. Man, they had a great run with their 3 champions. Wow, and you know, put them into 5th place as a team. So
yeah, and that's I tell you what, they, you know, especially Mason Knipp coming away with a 3-1 victory over Jared Theory of Don Bosco in the finals. You know, that was a big win. Theory, one of the state's best. And Knipp, of course, the grandson of former Waterloo East Coach Steve Knipp as well. So that with Carson Hartz, who beat Caden Ballou in the finals. Caden Ballou from Midland came in as the number 15 seed. And just really hammered his way to the finals. I believe he eventually lost to Wilton's Caden Shirk in the semis to make the finals. But good showing by Ballou. Carson Hart's also getting that back-to-back title with Maximus McGina, who is now a 3-time champ and has a chance to become a 4-timer next season for Columbus.
Right, and I mentioned that the seating committee did a good job at 182 with Ballou, who was mentioned was the 15th seed. I was looking at that. I don't know who beat who and didn't really dig it, but he is the 15th seed with a 45-4 record, and he came to the number 2 seed, beat the number 3 seed 7-2, beat the 10th and 18th seed. But there's a guy that clearly wrestled way above his seed, and I was looking at some of their records, and there was decent records in there. But so I don't know who beat who to put him clear down to 15th seed, but that one might have been one they missed there. So good job by Caden Ballou from Midland. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think a lot of attention was on Arnold and Nakaborn, but 1A also had kind of a similar marquee matchup, I guess you would say, at 160 with Wyatt Reese and Dominic Lopez. Dominic Lopez set the all-time wins record in the state of Iowa. I believe he finished at 222 overall, maybe after this weekend. But he faced Wyatt Reese of Logan Magnolia in the 160-pound finals. Reese, 2-time champ, going for his 3rd. Lopez, a 4-time medalist. And of course, that didn't disappoint. Reese with a takedown and sudden victory to win 6-4 and become a 3-time champ, finishing his senior year 52-0. That finals loss, the only blemish on Dominic Lopez's record this year. He finished 57-1. So you had these two coming in with a combined 108 wins, and Wyatt Reese was able to finish that off.
Very impressive. 220. Holy cow, that's like 8 years with the wrestling.
Yeah, right. One thing to point out, and actually I probably would have overlooked this a little bit if it hadn't been for Cody Goodwin mentioning it. Blake Allen of Underwood coming away with a state title at 138. Now the Avalas and Robert Avila Jr. and Janelle Avila won state titles. Technically the first to win state titles. Avila's was an Iowa Wrestling Coaches and Officials Association Girls State Wrestling Tournament title. But the Allens, Blake Allen, Molly Allen, who won at the the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union first sanctioned tournament. They become the first brother-sister duo to win sanctioned state titles between the two of them, and joining the Avilas as high school state champs.
I have no doubt that we're going to see more of that, because you've got, wrestling families, and particularly now that the girls are getting going, in force, then I think you're going to see more of that for sure. Very nice job. So KJ, who's your 1A outstanding wrestler?
Oh, you could go a ton of different ways. Boy, I guess I'm gonna play the role of Homer here. and I'm going to go with Brandon Paez just because of this being him becoming a 4-time finalist, finishing it off with 74 straight wins, being as dominant as he was, finishing this year 53-0. I'm going to give the nod to Brandon Paez just above Wyatt Reese at 160.
Okay, so I'm going a different direction. I'm going with 3-timer, finished with a technical fall, 16-0 was the score in the match, and that's Max Magana.
Okay.
So he's my pick. I just thought he had a fabulous tournament, had 3 pins in the technical fall, and then not far behind him is Paez, and then also I got Porter in there as well too.
Sure.
So
No, I mean, Maximus from his freshman season, he has been one of the top wrestlers in the state, and he had another fantastic tournament and stuff. Almost one of those wrestlers you kind of take for granted a little bit. You just kind of know he's gonna dominate, and you really should appreciate how well he competes and how dominant he really is. So that's a good choice. I like that as well.
Another thing about Magana is it's a couple of things. One, I like to think that he's the kind of impetus that brings those other guys into the fold. He might be the leader of that. Remember we had 2 other champs, so 3 total champs there.
Right.
And so you've got that, but then also he's not a guy that shies away from competition. He goes out looking for it. He'll move up weights to get tougher matches. He can't move down weights, but he'll be looking for those tougher matches to get to wrestle the best. So I like that, man.
No, for sure. And you mentioned the back-to-back wrestlers, that usually are probably banging heads in practice day in and day out, right? That are pushing each other. So your hardest competition is going to be in the practice room and make things easy when you step out onto the mat in competition, right?
Absolutely.
You got Magana at 70, you got Carson Hartz at 182, and then you have Mason Knipp at 220, all, 3 out of a 4 weight class span. You have 3 champs. So that tells you a little bit about those guys pushing each other and making each other better. Is probably Max pulling those guys up with him.
That's kind of the suspicion I get, but I mean, obviously those guys got to do the work and be there, but
right.
You got that, and when I was working Iron Sharpens Iron, those guys were over there, got to talk to Dad and get to know him a little bit, and very impressive. So,
all right. So that really kind of puts a cap on the high school seasons. Really special winner, I think. Any final thoughts as far as high school goes, or for this last week down in Des Moines?
Nope, I'm just excited because there's, like we mentioned, so many teams that are young and going to be probably stronger next year. In our area, Alburnett, Linmar, this is going to be stronger. It seems like. So.
Oh, and one thing that we should mention, Rihanna Utterbach of Sigourney Kyoto. She ended up wrestling with the boys team, even though the sport was sanctioned with the girls union. But Sigourney Kyoto, she was the only female wrestler that went out. They didn't have a sharing agreement or an opportunity for her, so she had her choice. She elected to go out for the boys team. She came in as the number 8 seed, qualified as the 8 seed at 106, and finished 8th to become the second female to place at the Iowa High School Athletic Association state tournament, joining Megan Black. who was 8th for Eddyville, Blacksburg, Fremont in 2012. And this very well could be the last time as well, because it sounds like there are some middle school, junior high girls coming up through the Sigourney Kyoto program that will allow them to have a team here in the future. So we might see the end of, or at least the second and last female to place at the boys state meet.
I think that opportunity goes away, if not this year, maybe next year, because then they have to go to the girls, I believe.
Right.
And kudos to her, because I know she had that opportunity to go either way, but wanted to go to the boys, felt like it was better competition to prepare her for wrestling in college, where she wants to go to the University of Iowa and be part of that program. So
Correct. So speaking of the University of Iowa, let's switch to college wrestling, and let's talk a little college wrestling here. I'll be 100% honest. I've been immersed in high school wrestling this last week plus. So I might rely on you just to kind of lead the way here. But I know Iowa State had a tough one with Missouri, even though David Carr came away with a big win against Keegan O'Toole and became the Big 12 Wrestler of the Week this last week. Iowa finally had its kind of its number one starting lineup that you see in the postseason take the mat together on Sunday against Oklahoma State, and they handled the Cowboys on Senior Day, getting a pin from Spencer Lee in his final match as a Hawkeye at Carver Hawkeye Arena.
all right, so let me set the stage for you at the Iowa Oklahoma State meet. Not 100% packed, but it was a sold out crowd, I believe, but there was some empty seats. And of course, it's Oklahoma State. John Smith, that's they don't get much better than that when it comes to matchups. And number 2 Iowa, number 6 Oklahoma State. They did draw because they started at 165 rather than 125. So I thought that was kind of neat with Spencer's last meet kind of going a different direction. So anyway, so that meant that started 165. Patrick Kennedy came out, had some great doubles and some good attacks on Wyatt Sheets, who was unranked. I don't get that. Wyatt Sheets unranked. He must have been out or something. He's a great wrestler, anyway, to me, that was the next best match of the meet. Because I mean, who could argue with Spencer Lee? So that was the next best match. It was the most exciting one. And then at 174, Nelson Brands came out and won a 3-2 match. Abe Assad won a 4-2 match over Travis Whitlake. And then and Nelson's win was over number 7 ranked Dustin Plott. So that was a nice win. Jacob Warner had a 3-2 win. And then Cassiope had a 4-0 win. So kind of yawners, not a lot of action going on. I'm hearing people around me, saying, "Come on, where's our offense going?" With these. So then they go into the break, and here's what I'm setting up. So they go into the break, and they're introducing the Iowa wrestlers, or they're just as a group, not individually, but the gal that goes around and does little interviews for Iowa, grabbed Gable, and Gable, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Gable's interview was, "We got to score more points. We got to score." He was kind of chewing out the Hawkeyes for not getting it going in his way, in his little way. So in other words, I think he was just disappointed with the action, as maybe some of the fans, were. But I mean, that's some nice wins over, higher ranked kids, like in Brands' case. But he, truth be told, Brands gets shooting and gets some offense going. I think he opens that up and makes it more than a 1-point match for sure. So, as well as those others, Cassiope with a 4-0 win over an unranked guy. So, you know what I'm saying there. So, and then break hits, and then Spencer Lee comes out, and I got to give Reese Whitcraft as the Oklahoma State wrestler credit. He went for it. He was going all or none, boy. He hit a nice hip center, came up, was going for the throw. Spencer just did kind of a cartwheel little thing to counter it right to the back and had a head and arm and eventually got the pin. So that put that one to rest. And then, the fans love that, of course. That was really nice. I think actually the fans were disappointed. They wanted to go longer. They wanted more Spencer. But and then Dayton Fix, he's a fabulous wrestler. Got a major over Teskey. I mean, Fix is he's ranked number 2 for a reason.
Right.
Real Woods had a nice win, 11 to nothing. So major there. Max Murin had a tough match, and he might be another one Gable would want to see open up a little bit. And then the Gefeller Seabrick match, I thought that was a great, exciting match. And that's Seabrick. He's been doing that all year, but unfortunately, he came out on the short end of that in tiebreaker. And it's 3-2, so he got ridden out. And anyway, but a lot of action in that match. So that's kind of the rundown of the duel there. But the fun part was, I thought, was Gable kind of getting on the Hawkeyes, which they're not good, but they're out in there or wherever they're at. So, but it's fun to hear that.
We'll share that Iowa finished the season with an 8-0 record at Carver Hawkeye Arena. It's the 24th time they've gone unbeaten at home in the venue at CHA in program history. Lee has now won 52 straight matches going all the way back to 2019. And he finished 26-0 at Carver Hawkeye Arena over his career. I still remember when he came out against Rayvon Foley of Michigan State that first year, and each appearance, I think, had the same type of reception from Iowa fans. I'm not sure if over the time that I've covered Iowa, which goes back to 2009, it's I don't remember anybody that got the same type of reception each time out than Spencer Lee did, and rightfully so. I mean, it's deservedly so.
Right. And do you remember, was it 6 years ago now? I guess 6 years. Then we were debating whether they should pull his red shirt.
Right.
They pulled it late in the season, and we're going, boy, I don't know. This kid could be a 4-time. Well, and then he ended up winning it. And hopefully it'll be
because he was just coming off losing at the Midlands too. That Michigan State duel was like their first duel back, or might have been their first home duel back after the Midlands, where he lost to Bresser from Oregon State in the semis, and look what's happened.
Been pretty special. So
it really has.
Here's something that I was, it's always kind of made me scratch my head, but from Sunday, so basically just short of a month between the last competition and nationals. And, so you got 2 weeks before Big Tens or Big 12s, or, for Iowa State and UNI, and then nationals, so it just seems like it's a long season. And then you just stretch that out for a whole month, and maybe that's good with stuff, but boy, it just seems like a long time.
No, yeah, you bring up a good point where, you've got this long season that started at the beginning of November, right? And, sometimes you're going multiple times a week. And then all of a sudden you get past the regular season, and then you've got 4 weeks where you have 5 days of competition.
Right. So anyway,
one other thing to note, Spencer Lee named Big Ten Wrestler of the Week this week as well. I think the third time he's either had or shared the award this season.
Right. And the Iowa State Missouri meet, which was I mean, Missouri's a great team. I mean, maybe Iowa State's overrated at third, but Missouri kind of handled them 23-12. That match you were talking about, David Carr, the number 2 ranked wrestler in the nation, beat Keegan O'Toole 7-2, who's the number 1 ranked wrestler. Now the new rankings are out, and you know, Carr is number 1 after that win. But great. I don't know if you saw a great flurry there. It was just such great athletes going at it for that last takedown of Carr's. Anyway,
you know, the one thing about you know, Carr, I think you know, boy, I just think he's the number 1 guy anyway. The one thing I thought was cool too is, you know, David Carr was at the state wrestling tournament on Saturday, and he was there kind of encouraging Tate Nakaborn and supporting him. I think that really shows a lot about his leadership on and off the mat where it comes to the current Cyclones and even future Cyclones that are coming in. He really seems vested in all his teammates and their success, which I think is pretty special.
right. That's nice to hear that. Another nice win in that match was Skyler at Sam Skyler at heavyweight, the number 9 ranked, beat Zach Elam from Missouri, right. All-American last year, right? Ranked number 7. So that's a big win for Skyler. And then, on the other side of it, Swiderski and Johnson both lost at 41 and 49. And I don't want to say anything on the negative side, but it just seems like they digressed from the beginning of the year, doesn't it? With those two, you know, so hopefully they can regain that for Big 12s and in the Nationals. So,
you know, with this kind of being their first year in the lineup, do you think that grind, you know, sometimes the length of the season can be hard to acclimate to? Do you think that might be kind of a result of, you know, kind of the long season and maybe what we were talking about where the next, you know, 3 or 4 weeks where things are kind of spaced out a little bit, maybe tapering off on training, maybe that'll help kind of recharge them a little bit or not so much?
I think you're right that the duration, the length of the season and the grind is definitely wears on anyone. I don't care how old you are, but particularly on younger guys. And yeah, maybe the 2 weeks here and the 2 weeks, you know, if they qualify before nationals, that'll help recharge them, like you said. So I hope so. Anyway, you know, another nice win in that duel, I guess, was Marcus Coleman. He's chugging along. So I mean, he's ranked 4th right now, and he's looking good.
So I want to, not trying to get negative or anything here, but I think we've seen maybe some inconsistency from Younger Bastida here maybe recently. Is that troublesome, or is that something that Kevin Dresser probably doesn't need to be concerned about? Because all it takes is one win to really, you know, saw what he could do last year in the postseason. No need to be alarmed about maybe some losses, kind of some up and down wrestling here lately.
Right. And he lost a 4-0 match to Rocky Elam, who's 4th ranked. And did Elam finish 3rd last year? I don't remember what it was. A high finisher though, I believe.
Yeah, I can double check and look here, but I know I'm pretty sure it was in the top half.
Yeah, top half, maybe not 3rd, but he, in other words, a great wrestler. So I don't think this is I mean, it's no loss is a good loss, but this isn't a horrible loss because Elam's so good and he's right there. He'll see him again. No, I guess not. Missouri's not in the Big 12 anymore, are they? In wrestling. So you won't see him there. So
Did they come back to the Big 12?
I don't think they did. I think they're in the MAC. No, let's see.
I think they're back in the Big 12.
No, they left the MAC and now they're in the Big 12, aren't they? In wrestling.
Yep, they returned to the Big 12. So
that's it. So they will see each other in the Big 12 again. So they can reverse that. But you're right, a little bit of inconsistency with Bastida. And so I don't know that it's concerned. I mean, you want to be concerned and talk, do the mental aspect of that. But I'm not as worried about Bastida as I am maybe about Johnston, who's really kind of fallen down there. So
Elam was fourth. He was third at the Big 12s, and then fourth at the NCAAs.
Fourth, okay, yeah,
but third at the Big 12s. So
I knew he was a high finisher and great wrestler. So that's why I'm less concerned about this loss, because that's Elam. He's a tough kid, big, tall.
Right.
Anyway.
Staying in the Big 12, UNI, they went to Wisconsin to close out their regular season. Wisconsin came away with 23-17 victory there. Cale Happel with a pin at 141. Parker Keckheisen with a technical fall at 184. Other UNI winners, Adam Allard at 149 and Lance Runyon at 174. Probably not the way Coach Schwab wants to go into the postseason, but non-conference duel, and some bigger fish to fry here coming up.
Right, and Wisconsin found the way to win the match they weren't supposed to on paper at 133. An unranked wrestler beats Biscaglia, who's a low team, 11-12 right in there, in a sudden victory match, and that was the second match of the night. So I mean, that first of all, they didn't match up real good for UNI anyway, and then when you lose that, now you're behind the eight ball there, trying to play catch up, and it just didn't happen for them. So someone needed to make win that match they weren't supposed to win, to give UNI a chance to win that duel. That just didn't happen.
Sure. Yeah. So Iowa State, UNI head to the Big 12 championships, March 4th and 5th, at the Box Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which happens to be the same site 2 weeks after that for the NCAA championships. And then Iowa will head to Ann Arbor, Michigan, for the Big 10 championships, March 4th and 5th as well. So those teams gearing up for their postseasons here in about a week and a half. So smaller schools have their regional qualifier this weekend. The D3 schools are heading down to Springfield, Illinois. Have you taken a look at the field at that D3 regional? Yeah,
I'm pretty familiar with it from years gone by. It's all the ARC schools, including Co, Loras, Luther, UD, and Wartburg that are, and also Cornell that are in our area. The top three qualify. This is the sad part about Division II and Division III. So the top three qualify from each of the regionals. So there's 18 wrestlers in the national tournament. Now that's ridiculous. It's a 16-man bracket. Division I has 33 wrestlers. They even had one additional wrestler, into that. But the NCAA only allows 18 at Division II and Division III. I'm going to tell you right now, it's stupid. I don't know how else to put it. It's sad and it's disappointing that they treat the Division II and Division III wrestlers like that. But that's the way it is. So I'm there. I'm off my.
Especially at the D3 level where there are more programs. than the rest, right?
Right. There's like probably 120, and it might be growing now that they've added women's. I know that's made had some schools add teams as well. So it's at least
Sure.
120, and then you're probably in the 75 range maybe for D1. So
Right.
maybe not
Or
even
low 80, maybe.
below 80. Yeah. So and D2 is even has a fewer probably 65 maybe, I don't know, something like that. But so the top three to qualify in Division 3 and Division 2, Upper Iowa's heading up to Aberdeen, South Dakota. Have you ever been there, KJ?
I have not.
No.
I've driven through South Dakota once, and I think I'm good.
Yep. Northern State hosts it. That's funny. There's 10 teams there, and from what I can tell, this looks like probably the toughest regional. 7 teams are in the top 22, which I thought was the toughest. Obviously, St. Cloud is there. It's mostly the Minnesota, one Wisconsin, Iowa, and South Dakota teams that are there. So some pretty good teams.
Yeah, when you've got St. Cloud State and Wisconsin Parkside,
right,
Minnesota State and Mankato, Augustana, Upper Iowa. That's a tough field.
Right. And Upper Iowa is currently ranked number 10. So we'll see how that goes. And then those kids qualify for the national tournament that is held where, KJ?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Hey.
Yeah. Nestled right in there between the D1 qualifiers and the NCAA tournament in Tulsa, D1 tournament in Tulsa. D2's right here, March 10th and 11th at the Alliant Energy Powerhouse. So, looking forward to that because the D2 wrestling is really, really fun.
Yeah. And we may have just answered our own question. Or my when I was saying it's a long month there, well, that allows the D2 and D3 to have their own qualifying weekend and their own national weekend. So I guess
that is true.
So now one question before we leave, and I think this is going to be an easy one for you. UNI has won since they entered the Big 12 in 2018. They've owned the 184 pound weight class. So can you tell me, and you can do it in reverse order if that's easier, who the champions have been, the five champs for 5 years?
5 years, three individuals, correct?
Correct.
That would going from first to last. It'll be Drew Foster, Taylor Lujan, and Parker Keckeisen.
And how does that distribute? You're correct. That is correct. Foster won how many?
Foster won 2 at 84.
Yep.
Lujan won 1, and Keckeisen 2.
And so Keckeisen right now is going to, and that is correct. He's going for his 3rd. So very good job. Nice job. I knew you had it in you.
Yeah. So I retained one thing. Was Lujan a 2-time champ? Did he go 74 and then 84? Or did he just win it at 84?
I don't remember on that. You might be right.
I'm glad you didn't ask me that then, because I can't remember either.
Yeah, I had forgotten that he was at 74, and then when Foster was there, and then bumped up. So very possible. Yeah.
But yeah, their stranglehold on the 184 pound weight class is pretty neat to see.
Right, and it's no given. Keckeisen is ranked 2nd, but don't forget Marcus Coleman ranked 4th at Iowa State. He wants nothing better than to win a title. So.
Lujan did win at 174 in 2018, and then was 2nd in 2019 before moving up to '84 to win it. So he didn't win them back to back, but he did win one title at 74 before winning at 84. So there you go.
Good memory.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other parting shots or last words for
Okay.
I go make sure my sidewalk is passable?
Great high school season. So a lot of fun. Let's finish out the college season.
Yep. Should be a fun month here, kind of going forward at all levels from NCAA Division 1, 2, and 3 to NAIA and JUCO as well. So make sure you get out and follow along as college postseason arrives. And as always, can't end this any other way.
Let's keep wrestling on the move.